So this week's long-form tier list content is going to be about the waifus of Dota. If you don't know what the word waifu is, you can go ahead and look it up. I won't get too deep into explaining what it is and its cultural significance here. We are going to be going through all of the female members of the Dota cast, and we're going to be talking about how great it is to have them as your waifu. So this isn't waifu in the sense of like them being real and if you would like to be married to them. It's just they are your favorite character and you are attracted to them in a sort of like weird romantic psychosexual way. Again, look it up if you're not familiar with the concept of waifu, you'll understand. There's going to be some wacky criteria for this list. Part of it is going to be based on community support. So does the Dota 2 community make it nice to have this character as your waifu? So that can be things like proliferation of fan art. How popular is it to see drawings of them? Are they featured in like fan merchandise, for example? Is it just like a socially acceptable waifu to have? That all those things matter. To a certain degree, it's not going to be the only important factor. Uh, the fan art, by the way, some of that can be a little saucy. In fact, about 5 months ago, someone made a tier list of how frequently Dota characters appear on Rule 34. If you don't know what that is, don't Google it right now. Wait till later. Uh, that will be a handy reference thing that I have up on a second monitor that we may occasionally look to as a source material to help make this. Now, that matters, but it's not the biggest thing. The second big qualifier is how much Valve gives a shit about them. So the fun part of having a waifu, or part of it anyway, is like having all those skins, having like the big show off skins that you can show everyone, like, oh, look how dedicated I am to them. That's another major element of how good it is to have a certain character as your waifu. Do they feature in official merchandise? Can you buy stuff from them at the secret shop? Is there like vintage merch from previous years? Do they have a Nendoroid? That kind of thing is going to really matter a lot. And then lastly, it's my own personal opinion, so that is going to leak through in this highly subjective thing. There are 5 tiers. Best girl, self-explanatory. There's probably going to be more than one in this tier, though. Splendid engagement. It's a splendid engagement. Respectable. Designated blorbo is the one that you might need some explaining for. So if you're not familiar with the concept of a blorbo, it's a thing from Tumblr where it's like a character that nobody but you gives a shit about. So there's going to be a couple of blorbos, but probably a single-digit number. And then finally, we have trash taste. This is a direct insult upon you and your bloodline if I put your waifu here. We can throw hands if you'd like, but I will try to justify as well as I can any given character that goes in here. Some of the more extreme monster girls will probably be going in here. Broodmother, most likely. Sorry to that one guy in Crownfall. I'm sure he was living a wonderful life. We're going to try to be a little bit snappy with this, considering that there's going to be not nearly as many characters. We're only doing the girls of Dota, of which there is a relatively small minority compared to the fellas. And finally, this was originally going to be an innate tier list, but I wanted to get this idea out of my head and into a video before I realized how stupid it was. So, without further ado, notice how, like, the first 2 rows are no girls, and then we have Broodmother. I guess you could say that Ark is a girl if you wanted. Broodmother is trash taste, I'm sorry to say. There's a lot of fellas out there in the world who are keen on monster girls, right? But one of the things I really hate about monster girls, in general, and the way that it's more commonly portrayed, oftentimes it's just like what's that monster girl anime where it's like there's a snake girl, but it just is a snake, and then it becomes just like a normal human woman instead of a head. So it's not really a snake girl, it's just a woman who has like a snake tail or whatever. That's like a much more common thing when people are like, oh, I like monster girls. Whereas when women are like, oh, the term monster fucker exists, they're talking about like Nosferatu or the guy from The Shape of Water. Those dudes are freaks. In Broodmother's case, this is a real spider. And I think if your waifu is a real spider, that's tough. Being an arachnophile is not an easy thing to be. There is some art of her. I don't know if it involves the guy from Crownfall, but trash taste for Brood. Sorry to offend you by this. Next up is Crystal Maiden, and holy shit. We're probably going to put her in best girl for a couple of reasons. In pretty much every way that she could be a good waifu, she is. Her sister is probably also going to go up here. In terms of community support, she has by far some of the most fan art of any character in the game. In the chart that I mentioned earlier, she's in the 1,000+ category. It's not ranked above that, but in terms of that kind of community fan art, if you're looking for that, you're flush. You're a rich man. And then in terms of normal fan art, that oftentimes portrays her as like more cutesy, right? You've got billions of options. In terms of official merch, she's like on pretty much everything. She's in like every single blind box that Valve ever makes. Obviously, you have to roll high or else you wind up with Pudge, because he's also in every blind box that Valve ever makes. And then in terms of in-game support, metric shitload of skins. She has an Arcana, which is a huge plus. She has different versions of the no, she doesn't yet. But she also has a Persona. We're not going to talk about the Wolf. Maybe we will, but we won't consider it the same as Crystal Maiden herself, because that is technically a different character. Tons of skins, tons of really high budget skins, tons of really old skins, cool skins. Pretty much every way that she could be a convenient waifu to have, she nails it with flying colors. She's got to go in best girl. This is not the only best girl, by the way. There's going to be a couple in this top tier, including, well, there's one character that you probably think is going to go in best girl, and she's not, and I'm going to have to really explain myself there. But Crystal Maiden is great. And then, as far as like my personal opinion goes, I like mained her for 5 years. So who am I? Who am I to tell you not to like Crystal Maiden? She's in best girl for sure. She sort of is like the rubric template for an optimal Dota 2 waifu. Huh. Man, the husbando tier list would take forever. Dark Willow. She's gonna go here. I think it's like kind of low. The thing about Dark Willow is like, yes, she is very high in terms of fan art, but in game, there's actually a shockingly few amount of Dark Willow skins, and the majority of them are ass. Obviously, she doesn't have an Arcana or a Persona. She came out with an Immortal, left the womb with drip, which is something that very few heroes have done. Monkey King did it the best with an Arcana on release, Jesus. But the skins that Dark Willow has, most of them suck. Like, there's the Halloween one where she's got the cat living on her head. That one's a banger. The spaceship one is extremely expensive, but it's not really like a waifu type of skin. I'm not really sure who that is meant to appeal to. It makes a lot more sense on Snapfire and Sniper than on her. That one's just expensive. I think she has a Crimson Witness. Does she? Maybe she does, maybe she doesn't. But the in-game stuff is not that great. It's really the out-of-game stuff that helps you. Personally, I think that because this is like Reddit's designated waifu, that I can't put it in the top 2 tiers, just on principle. But she's definitely not a blorbo. And then there's a lot going for her in the out-of-game stuff. She is a pretty good waifu. I think, yeah, that's all I have to say. Dawnbreaker. Pretty good. Pretty good, I think. She's also a character, so she's almost like Dark Willow in a lot of ways, where the out-of-game stuff in terms of like quantity of fan art, both safe for work and not, is like very high. People really like Dawnbreaker's design. In terms of the in-game stuff, not so much. Both of these are also newer characters, by the way, which is part of why they don't have as many skins. And then a lot of Dawnbreaker's skins are like kind of eh. Her best skin is, well, I don't know, because there's the new one that's like pretty good. Wait, no, that one didn't make it in the cache. Her best skin is the Dota Plus one. The one that gives her like the giant purple Roman Centurion look. That one is up there. In terms of her like in-game design and waifuism, she's definitely a healthier waifu. Probably the healthiest waifu that we've seen so far between all 3 of these. Pretty respectable. What is her accent, by the way? I've always said that she's Colombian, but I've had people threaten to set me on fire for having that opinion. She's Colombian to me. That is not a negative, by the way. Death Prophet. This is like a pretty ass waifu to have, honestly. In terms of Rule 34 post, she's actually below some of the male characters, which is a tough thing to be. There's more of Slark than of Death Prophet. That's insanity. I think that she's gonna go in. She's like borderline trash taste. I just don't think that she's quite up there, you know? I think she's gonna wind up here in respectable, but it's like a Blorbo-esque pick. I don't think she's quite designated Blorbo. Is she? We're gonna use this tier. She's a Blorbo. The thing is, in game, you don't have a metric ton of options. Death Prophet hasn't gotten a new skin in a while. I don't think the skins that she has are cool. There's the one with the veil, like a marital veil that she has on, which is cool. Bit of a wedding dress motif, and at least one of her. I think she has 2. But in terms of the like out of game stuff, no merch. There's never any merch with Death Prophet. Good luck ever finding it. You will have to go to Redbubble and make your own design that's like #1 Death Prophet Enjoyer, and like have that on a t-shirt delivered to your house for $28. Maybe get a foam finger while you're at it so you can hold it up at TI. She is sadly a designated Blorbo. There's not much going for her, but she's also like she's not Brood, so she's not going to go in trash taste. Death Prophet is a Blorbo. An example of how that is. Because also, like, Dota players on balance don't really care about Death Prophet. I've never met someone who's like, yeah, that's my favorite hero. Next up is Drow Ranger. I probably should have put all the girls at the top to make this easier. Drow is, like, pretty great, I think. Some shades of Dark Willow in terms of her personality. I don't think she's particularly nice. She's certainly not my waifu. But in terms of in-game stuff, you're set. There is so many skins. She's got an Arcana. There's sadly no way to get it outside of the Battle Pass, so if you don't have it now, you probably won't be able to get it for a long time until Valve decides to put it in a chest for some reason. There's a lot going on there. She does have a Crimson Witness. She has the shoulder going on, which is nice. In terms of merch, she's good. There's a good amount of it, a healthy quantity. Not quite as much as Crystal Maiden or like Pudge, for example. Pudge will not be rated on this list. But she's good. She's a good one. Plenty of ways to pimp herself out. A lot of art of her. A lot of art. She's up there with Crystal Maiden in the very top tier of the R34 posts at 4 digits, which is kind of crazy. Just remembered, by the way, that I didn't talk about Crystal Maiden Wolf. Maybe we'll save those for the end. There's a lot of upside to having Drow as a waifu. She's going to go in Splendid Engagement. That Crimson Wake is sick, by the way. Oh, and the abs. How could I forget? There is the skin where the stummy of Drow Ranger is like stupid ripped. I think it kind of looks shitty, personally. A lot of people like mixing it with the Arcana, and the like certain, it's like the Butch haircut. It's like the pink, but like spelled with an exclamation mark haircut that you can put on her. Some people are really into that. It's worth a good amount on the community marketplace, more than the normal skin stomach would be for Drow Ranger. So shout out to that guy. I don't think the designer of that ever actually makes more money off of the Steam community transactions, but if he does, he's a goddamn genius and a rich man for it. Next up is Ench. Ench is weird, man. People are so weird about this hero. But in terms of like personality, Drow Ranger is like a kind of a B word. Dark Willow is too. Crystal Maiden is literally insane. Eng is like personality wise very healthy, up there with Dawnbreaker, which is like a weird comparison to make. She's pretty good. I think that in terms of like art, she's not in the top tier, but she's like fairly high up there. And then in terms of the Rule 34 post, she's also, I don't even know. Let me consult the chart for a second. Suspiciously high. Up there with Dawnbreaker as well, which is really more of a testament to her because she's like fairly new to the game. I say new to the game. She's been in here for like 5 years or whatever. Ench is sort of a mainstay. It's sort of like you have to be really dedicated to Dota for this character to be your waifu and for you to tell people about it. Based on the hero portrait, makes perfect sense. Then you see that she is a deer. But still, Splendid Engagement, I think there's enough, because there's not a whole lot of customization in the game, but there's enough. She's got the Rainbow Immortal, so you can throw pride flags at your opponents. In terms of merch, there's not much. You're really missing out. But I think the healthiness of the personality does quite a bit of heavy lifting. If I weighed my own personal criteria more, it'd be down here in respectable. But because of the cultural significance of having Ench as your waifu, I think she's going to go up in Splendid Engagement. Man, there's so many dudes in Dota. Hoodwink, you are a furry. I think she's gonna go in designated Blorbo. What's funny to me about this is that, well, is she? She's such a Blorbo. Like, look at her. She's like a Snarf mascot type character, especially when you compare him to the rest of these characters. Broodmother is also a non-humanoid. I guess you could say that she's a non-humanoid. Is Ench a non-humanoid? Whatever. I'm going to put her in the Blorbo tier because I think she's like a mascot character more than anything else. Notably, she is in one of the higher tiers for Rule 34 posts, which is weird. The video that I made about Hoodwink, I called her a hero for furries. And I don't think it's too hard to figure out why. Interestingly enough, I don't think that epithet applies to Enchantress nearly as much. I think it's primarily a Hoodwink thing. To me, she is such a strong Blorbo, and I am going to rate my criteria higher here and put her here. If she is your waifu, and there is like a guy who comments on some of my videos talking about how like getting maybe a little bit too explicit about how he feels about Hoodwink. Sorry to that guy, I guess, but like designated Blorbo for sure. But a convenient Blorbo to have. Remember, this is not necessarily below respectable. It's just a sort of its own category. All right, we've reorganized the options in order to make it more convenient, and it is once again shocking to me how many few women are in Dota. Speaking of women in Dota, we've got IO. IO, notably not a boy. Elemental Foundation, oh wait, Fundamental, that's what they're called, of electromagnetism, allegedly. Whenever I bring that up, people are always quick to correct me. I don't know if that's true or not. I choose to believe myself. Designated Blorbo for sure. I'm not even sure why he's in this list. I just called him a he. Designated Blorbo. Designated Blorbo. Legion Commander. This one's fine, I think. In terms of personality, also very healthy up there with Dawnbreaker and Enchantress on that front. I think respectable. Valve definitely doesn't want you to have LC as your waifu. There aren't a whole lot of options when it comes to that. There are a lot of ways to pimp her out, but none in a way that is like cute or sexy or romantic or anything like that, which might be for the best. Legion Commander takes her job very seriously. She is extremely racist. She would make an amazing girlfriend for a online racist person. Never ask those guys what color their girlfriend is. Legion Commander is probably going to go in the respectable tier. Missing out on a lot of the tangentials, but the in-game appearance should be enough. And if you're really dedicated to women like LC, there aren't a whole lot of other options for you. So she's going to go in respectable. Lina, right up here next to Best Girl. A little bit less healthy than some of these, but like, look at the competition. Better than her sister on this, and it hurts me to say it, but it is true. Lina is going to go in Best Girl. In terms of skins, you have some of the absolute best options to pick from. Her Arcana does kind of suck, which is notable. It's like probably the worst Arcana, probably tied with the worst Arcana with like techies at this point, because half his shit doesn't work. But the other skins that you have, the one that like it's the laser on her chest for, I think it's Laguna Blade. She has like an immortal in almost every slot. You can get an Arcana. You can dress her up in all sorts of ways. You can make her feet hang out. She's up here for sure in Best Girl. In terms of art, super commonly portrayed in fan art, oftentimes with her sister, who she hates. And then in terms of Rule 34 posts, she's in the 4-digit club. She's in the very top tier. There's not going to be that many more more heroes in that tier. So she is going to go in Best Girl for sure. Slam dunk. These are sort of the designated Valve wants you to have them as waifus. So here they are. Justice for the Lina Arcana, please. Crystal Maiden's clears. She gets mogged so hard by Crystal Maiden. Luna, probably the least healthy. Well, not as bad as Dark Willow and Drow. but still pretty down there. But tons of different skins, including the one where she's like a nun on a wolf's back. By the way, Redditors did the math. They dissected the 3D model, did some camera trickery. She's wearing a leotard, fellas. We figured it out. She's got a leotard on. Splendid engagement, I think. Mostly due to the cosmetic situation and then also the merch, because there's a good amount of Luna merch. People seem to like her quite a bit. She's also in the anime, which gives her a small boost. Not going to be that important, but it is worth mentioning. You can see Luna move in the second dimension if you watch the Dragon's Blood anime. I haven't watched it because anime is not something I am keen on. Marci. I've got mixed feelings about this. People really want me to put her in Best Girl, and I think I kind of have to. We're gonna give her a little bit of leeway because of her relative recency into the game. There's only a couple of Marci skins, but a lot of them lean actually towards her being more of a designated Blorbo. But if you look at all of the other materials, like for example the merchandise, there were like 4 or 5 different things you could have bought at the most recent TI with Marci's face on it, including a keychain where they dressed her up in a monkey onesie, and that's hilarious. I kind of want one of those, but like as an insult. She's in the anime very prominently, which is a fairly big deal because she is one of the main characters of the anime. She literally is an anime girl before she is a Dota character, which I think lends quite a bit of credence to her resume as a waifu. All of her skins are great and definitely conducive towards the waifu imagery. She doesn't talk, and I think that if your favorite woman in a video game full of women is the one who doesn't talk, I feel like there's some underlying misogyny going on there. Medusa, pretty trash taste. And the reason I say this, okay, Medusa has some good skins in the game. Very little representation out of it. In terms of art, I gotta consult the graph. She's low. She is like in the same category as Elder Titan, which actually, why is Elder Titan that high up? Jeez, but she's very low. She's like below 50, above 25. There isn't a whole lot of fan art for Medusa. Most people hate this character on balance, but I think this is okay. I feel like she wouldn't be offended by being put here because I don't think Medusa has any interest in being anyone's waifu. If you read her lore, her whole shtick is that like beauty is like a curse, and she traded her beauty to become a horrible snake lady in order to gain the powers of a gorgon. So trash taste, but I think it's consensual on part of her and the people who enjoy Medusa. I think, I like Medusa a lot as a character and as like a mechanical function. I would never consider her to be a waifu. So she's going to go here. Bottom of the Moon is probably pretty high up for a lot of the same reasons that Marci is. She doesn't have she has a persona. She doesn't have arcana. She's got a lot of skins that are conducive towards the waifu image, fairly healthy personality, definitely more so than Luna, and a ton of stuff outside of the game. So there's there's a Mirana figure. She's on a lot of merch from TI, a mainstay at all of the secret shops. She's lacking a little bit on the skin department because there isn't a whole lot of flash to her. She has a Crimson Witness, I think it's the bow, but outside of that, there isn't a whole lot of crazy stuff that you can use to show everyone how much you love Mirana. I guess the real display of dedication to this character is landing a 5-second arrow once. Just once. Not using it to farm yellow hellbears all game. She's gonna go in Best Girl. Her role in the anime really helps drag her up quite a bit here. Considering it's like she is the deuteragonist, secondary protagonist? I don't know what the words mean. Phantom Assassin. She's actually lower on the Rule 34 list than I expected she would be. She's gonna go, I think, in respectable. Personality is okay. Lots of ways to show her off in-game. The in-game goods for her are insanity. You can have so many crazy things. Her arcana is great. Tons of mix and match potential. You can make her a cowboy. You can make her Chinese. You can make her pretty much any way that you would want your waifu to look, and you can spend a lot of money doing so. So she's going to go in respectable. The places where she's lacking is the out-of-game stuff. There's actually not that much PA merch. You don't see her on like t-shirts or keychains or in blind boxes or anything like that very often. At least definitely compared to like a lot of the other characters on this list. Everyone above her is fairly frequently mentioned. Maybe not Ench, but like the rest of these are. Dawnbreaker and Elsie are a little lacking too. But she's in very good company down here. She's going to be in respectable. But her in-game options really are really good. She's like probably at the top of respectable. Tiers are not ordered. Muerta. Very similar to Medusa in the capacity that I don't think she gives a shit about being anyone's waifu. Her in-game skin situation is very scarce, but she's also quite new. I think she is actually in Designated Blorbo, for a lot of the same reasons that Death Prophet is, humorously enough. There aren't a whole lot of customization options, and in terms of out-of-game merch, there's nothing. There's nothing at all. I don't think she was ever on a piece of like official Dota 2 merchandise, except for the stuff where it's like every hero like drawn on the mouse pad and stuff. Yeah, she's also like just like Death Prophet, a technical zombie, or I guess a ghost. If you, yeah, Muerta's a ghost and Death Prophet's a zombie. Slightly different. Tomatoes, tomatoes, potatoes, potatoes. Naga Siren. I think the titty fish is like pretty. Oh man, she's fine. She's fine. I think there's not nearly as many ways to pimp her out in game as you would think, and one of the most coveted skins for her is one that makes her no longer a Naga. She is just a woman in a tube, and you can see her feet. It's tough, man. She does have a Crimson Witness. I think she has the swords, but there aren't a whole lot of ways to show off your devotion to Naga. And then in terms of merchandise, there's not much. The Valve should make one of those gigantic 80-pound pillows of Naga Siren that's like 3 feet tall, and the tail is ginormous. They should do that for sure. I would buy one, and I'm not even a huge Naga Siren fan, but I know that there are some people who are massive Naga Siren enjoyers. They've already got their foam fingers. They don't need to order them off of Redbubble. They're good to go. Respectable for her. Lacking in pretty much every way you can, but her default skin is topless, and you got that going for you. She's also in a tier that I think is just 75 to 99 pieces of art on Rule 34. Her tier mates in that are Doom, Juggernaut, OD, Ricky, and Wyvern, which is really funny. She's just the fellas and Wyvern and Naga. Respectable choice, but lacking in a lot of those key criteria. I don't think it's that weird, though. I don't think it's nearly as weird as it is to have, like, Broodmother. Dark Willow's a bug, and she's in here, too. Puck. Blorbo tier, for sure. Lots of merchandise. There was a custom art set at the most recent TI that was really cool. I can't remember the name of the artist, but it was awesome. Plenty of cool skins in game, but like I don't think they have a Crimson Witness, or if they do, it's like the TI3 ball head, where you can actually see the $1 million dream coil in the middle, so you never forget. Designated Blorbo for sure. Puck is not designed to be a waifu, and if Puck is your waifu, that's a strange thing. But that's okay. Blorbo tier for sure. If your favorite character is Puck and you obsess over Puck, it's not in a romantic or sexual way. You just like Puck. Also ambiguous as to their gender. So that they might not even belong here. Puck should maybe be on the husbando list, but it's okay. I was here too. I figured it was only fair. Not a whole lot of non-binary or agender or whatever. I don't know the difference, so I'm gonna keep it a buck. Pugna is here. We are not rating Pugna. We are rating Pugna-chan. I feel like it's weird, but if we were gonna put IO on this list and Puck, we're also gonna do Pugna. So this isn't the real Pugna. Pugna-chan is lacking in pretty much every possible way except for community fan art. That is the only way that Pugna even exists. But in that capacity, I feel like Pugna-chan punches so far above her weight class because her weight class is non-existent hero, and there isn't a whole lot of art of non-existent heroes as hero fan art. Sort of breaking the rules to even exist. But again, it's a super weird thing. I think Pugna-chan is going to go in Splendid Engagement. There will never be a Pugna-chan persona or arcana. It will never happen. I'm sorry to be the one to break it to you, but it's just not going to happen. I've gotten a few comments of people saying that, like, oh, Valve was going to put it in the game until you used it as your profile picture. First off, I don't think Valve gives a shit about me. I definitely don't think they give enough of a shit to prevent creating, like, if they had it halfway done and then they were like, oh, this guy's making PowerPoints, we can't do it. I don't think that chain of events happened. I don't think it ever began in the first place. Just by nature of punching so far above their weight class, we're gonna put Pugna in Splendid Engagement. By the way, on the tier list of number of art submissions on Rule 34, very humorously in a quite high tier. And they're not drawing normal Pugna, so Splendid Engagement. But it's a weird rate. It's a weird rate. Based off of the sole criteria they have, though, they are up here. Based on my channel mascot, maybe I should put in Best Girl, but no, we're gonna be honest. We're gonna be honest. Queen of Pain. A lot of people would say that Queen of Pain is Best Girl. I think that this is misunderstanding the nature of what a waifu is. I think Queen of Pain is in Splendid Engagement. A big component of waifuism is not just like who you're jerking to, right? Not to be crude, but a lot of people think that that equates to waifuism. That is not true. That is not true. A big part of waifuism is like enjoying the theoretical reality of them like in a domestic life with you. Maybe not in a domestic life like House and a Kids, but at least like having a real relationship with them. If someone is your waifu, it's because they represent certain aspects of personality, pursuits, professional standing, career, appearance that you would see equated to your real life fictional soulmate. That is the idea. It is a reflection of like who you view as your ideal life partner put into a fictional media. That I said I wouldn't define waifu, and that isn't really a definition. It's sort of the higher concept of waifu. But that is what it is. And if Queen of Pain is your waifu, you need to raise your self-esteem, because this is the Dota 2 equivalent of falling in love with a stripper. And I'm sure that some people have done that and have gone on to have wonderful lives. but it is a single-digit percentage at best. but my criteria is really dragging it down, because in terms of out-of-game merch, you are rolling in the dough. In terms of in-game skins, rolling in the dough. She's got an amazing arcana. She's got a shitload of skins with a pretty wide variety. I like the one in the giant red dress. They also did one in a cocktail dress recently with like leg cutouts. She's got a tiny little crown that floats above her head. I love that. In those, she is slamming the metrics. She's like probably above Luna, probably above Drow as well. Above Marci and above Mirana, for sure. She's like up here in terms of like the in-game skin pimp outage that you can do. And you could argue she's above CM. but I would disagree. I think she's overall in splendid engagement. And in terms of art, brother, brother, you don't even have to. If you have to ask, you're not doing it right. Snapfire, Blorbo, Blorbo for sure. Partially because of Mortimer. I think Mortimer gets just as much. Well, it would make sense for them to get just as much merch because they're oftentimes done as a pair. But I want to say that like Mortimer has a plushie that's just him or something. Maybe it's a keychain, and Sapphire isn't featured on it, which means that there is more official merch of Mortimer than Beatty, which kind of hurts her case. Designated a Blorbo tier. It should be self-explanatory. You look at this tier and it makes a lot of sense. Some people are going to argue about Hoodwink, maybe, but I said what I said. Spectre, trash taste, down here with the extreme monster girls. You can be a little bit of a monster girl and you can make it through. Shout out to Naga Siren. There are some girls here who are monsters, like Dark Willow and Drow. Crystal Maiden and Lina, you could make that argument. Well, maybe not Lina, but definitely Crystal Maiden. Unmedicated, pink monster drinker. Spectre, however, there's nothing really going for you there. If you have Spectre as your waifu, I would like to know why. That's a very strange life to live. You probably have some weird childhood experiences. Trash taste for her. But it's not a disrespectful. Well, yes it is. Yes it is. It is disrespectful. TA. Should I make a "the secret is out" joke? I will not. I will not. Splendid engagement, I think. Lacking a little bit in the skins department. She's got a couple of immortals. No Arcana to speak of, and no Persona. Kind of surprised by that. I feel like she's a pretty healthy Arcana candidate. Maybe in the future. There's a lot to like about her in-game, and then out-of-game, her merch game is sort of on fleek. She's got a lot going for her. She's on a lot of keychains. I think she has a figure. Not 100% sure, but there's definitely t-shirts and notebooks and mouse pads and all of those things that you could possibly want. I think there's a puzzle of her. Splendid engagement for sure. Plenty to dig into if TA is your waifu, and I know that she's like a fairly common and popular pick. She's a bit in the Ench category, but don't take that too literally because Ench is a deer. TA is a human. Well, I think she's an elf, but she got them pointy ass ears. She's probably whatever race that Invoker belongs to as well, where it's like not quite human, but I don't think they ever say the word. Well, no, there are elves in Dota. Whatever. I'm sure the anime gets into it, but again, not canon because I haven't seen it. Splendid engagement for TA. Plenty to like. Plenty to like. Also, this is a character that you can really dig your teeth into mechanically. So if she is your waifu, she can also be your favorite character to play. Vengeful Spirit is kind of a weird one. Her Arcana is like basically a different character. She's got a pretty interesting arc and like personal story, and her personality is pretty bad, probably out there with Dark Willow. But in terms of in-game ways to show your dedication, she's probably pretty high up there. We're going to give her a respectable. She's got the Arcana. I know she has a Crimson Witness. She's got a lot of really cool skins. I like the one where she wears yoga pants. I like that one. Big, puffy, they're like harem pants, I think. Respectable for her. Important that you respect her relationship with Skywrath Mage as well. Windranger might be... Is she best girl? Arcana, lots of pimps. Yes. Now that I'm really thinking about it, she's got an Arcana. She's got a lot of really cool pimped out skins that convey the waifu aesthetic. And in terms of the merch, not only do you have one figure to pick from, you have multiple, and those figures are expensive. She's on a ton of t-shirts and notebooks and jigsaw puzzles and mouse pads and all of that stuff too. In terms of out-of-game merch, you could be a glutton with Windranger and you still won't run out of shit to buy. There's quite a bit. And then a lot of her stuff is really expensive, and the Arcana you can get by buying that one chest. You will need to buy a metric shitload of it, but your reward is that her cup size goes up by like 3 letters for some reason. So best girl for Windranger. In terms of R34 posts, she's in the 1,000 club. She's in the 4 digits. Lots of really cool fan art of her. Lots of really cool interpretations. She's got some great loading screens. I think she's best girl. I think you can build your entire Dota 2 career out of your love for Windranger. And she doesn't have some of the issues that I've brought up with like the personalities of Dark Willow and Drow Ranger. And a couple of others. Best girl for Windranger. Shout out to the Windranger enjoyers. Also plays all 5 roles, which is great. Winter Wyvern is a weird one because she is a dragon. But there are very brave men on planet Earth, and they would be willing to. I think she's going to go in respectable. The weird thing about her is like it's almost entirely just her voice. I know that she becomes like a woman in the anime, like a normal human being, but I don't care about that. I think it really just comes down to the voice, and like that's a weird metric to base your waifuism on. But there are people who really, really love Winter Wyvern. In terms of the out of game, even the in game stuff, because like her skins are not great. There aren't a lot of very good Winter Wyvern skins. Doesn't she like not have an immortal? Maybe she does. I'm pretty sure she doesn't. I don't think she has anything. She's completely dripless. No swag on this not dragon. Or apparently wyverns are a type of dragon, so I guess no swag on this dragon. Swagless. She's gonna go respectable, but I've always found it very strange that people could like talk about her as if she is a waifu without actually being like she just is a dragon and the only thing you like is her voice. Which, by the way, shares a voice actor with Legion Commander and Alex from Half-Life. Smiley face emoji. Oh, you thought I forgot? You thought I forgot about Amy Mage, huh? Amy Mage is also like pretty respectable. We're gonna talk a little bit about the personas and just the personas now. Amy Mage gets a ridiculous amount of skins, is super accessible. If you want to dress her up as a samurai, there's like 3 different ways to do it. In terms of out of game stuff, she also has a figure, which is kind of weird. Very few personas have gotten nearly as much love as Amy Mage has, which I guess makes sense because when you take a beloved character like Anti Mage and you turn it into a cute girl, the crowd goes wild, which makes a lot of sense from Valve. Excellent money making move that they did by introducing personas that can change the genders of characters. I think Amy Mage is respectable. It's just that like if you judge her as if she was an entire Dota hero, it doesn't really she doesn't stack up to a lot of the other characters in terms of cosmetics. But most of these characters don't have any merch, and Amy Mage has multiple forms of merch, which is kind of crazy. It's sort of an apples to oranges comparison, kind of hitting at her weight class. I'm gonna put her in. Well, I gave Pugna-chan credit for like punching above their weight class. We're gonna do that for Anti-Mage as well. We're gonna give a little bit of credence for being only a persona. The actual Anti-Mage, baby girl as he is not in this tier list. He will be in the Husbando tier list that I might do eventually, maybe not. And then finally, we're gonna talk about Crystal Maiden Wolf. Down here in respectable tier, I think it's the exact same situation as Winter Wyvern, where it's just the voice. You don't actually waifu the character, you really just waifu the voice. That is a dog. That is a wolf, even. Yeah, that's really all I have to say about that. Borderline designated Blorbo, but the it's like understandable that people go so far in for the voice. So literally would be right next to Winter Wyvern. Like the wolf is here, where Amy Mage was. But Crystal Maiden as a whole, best girl for sure. So there you go. That's the waifu tier list. I think this is like I don't think I had too many hot takes here. Putting Pugna and Anti-Mage on this list is very funny. Looking at it now, just like with a bit of a clear lens. People might get upset about Hoodwink. I know someone will get upset about Naga, saying that she should be in Best Girl. I don't think I issued too many hot takes here. Obviously, the thing is, if any one of these characters is your waifu and they're not in Best Girl, you're going to be upset. It's sort of a cursed tier list in that capacity. You have to not have a waifu in order to view this with unclouded judgment. In Saint mode. If only there was something you could do to get a sudden bout of clarity. That's all I have for the waifu tier list. Next week is the innate tier list. Please look forward to that, and I'll try to decide if we're going to do a Husbando tier list or not. I won't commit right now, but it'll be in my head for a while. That one's going to be a lot longer. Look at all these dudes. Night Stalker will be an S. Thank you very much for watching. Peace on planet Earth.